Have you ever looked in the mirror and felt like the world sees a version of you that isn't even close to what you could be? Like your potential is trapped behind distractions, doubt, and noise? Let me tell you something real. Your transformation will not happen in front of an audience. It won't happen when you're scrolling, explaining, or performing for approval. It will happen when you disappear, when you go ghost, when you walk away from the noise, not because you're weak, but because you've chosen to rebuild in silence. I'm not here to motivate you. I'm here to challenge you. For 6 months, vanish, say less, train harder than you've ever trained. Show up for yourself in the dark so when the light finally finds you, you don't just return, you return unrecognizable. Silence is a weapon. Use it ruthlessly. One of the most powerful tools you will ever have in your life is silence. Not the silence of fear or confusion or insecurity, but the silence of power. The silence that speaks louder than any words ever could. In today's world, people are obsessed with sharing. Every move, every goal, every step is broadcasted for attention. But I want you to understand something deep. The more you talk, the more you weaken the energy of your purpose. The more you explain, the more you give others the opportunity to question, criticize, or plant seeds of doubt in your mind. So stop telling people what you're working on. Don't announce your goals. Don't go around trying to convince others how hard you're grinding. When I was building myself, I didn't advertise it. I didn't post about it. I didn't look for validation. I disappeared, not because I was hiding, but because I wanted absolute control over my space, my energy, and my focus. I didn't want the noise of the world distracting me from my mission. I wanted to become so locked in, so concentrated that nothing could pull me away from my growth. You see, silence is misunderstood. People think if you're not speaking, you're weak, but it's the complete opposite. Silence is strength. It's a sign that you're not looking for outside approval because you've already made peace with your purpose. It shows that you're disciplined enough to let your actions speak for you. And actions, real, solid, undeniable results, speak louder than any motivational speech or social media post ever will. When you move in silence, you give yourself room to fail in private, to improve without judgment, and to evolve without pressure. It's in that sacred space that you become dangerous, not in a violent way, but in a powerful way. Because while others are busy talking, you're busy becoming. You're using that silence to train your mind, strengthen your spirit, and sharpen your skills to a deadly edge. When I say use silence like a weapon, I mean use it to protect your goals. Use it to guard your energy. Use it to outgrow everything and everyone that isn't aligned with where you're going. Let people wonder what you're doing. Let them assume you gave up. Let them doubt you, because when you show up again, they won't recognize the version of you that emerges from the dark. I've always said this, and I'll say it again. I don't fear the man who talks. I fear the one who trains in silence. Because that man is building something the world can't see until it's too late. Train like a ghost. Present nowhere, dangerous everywhere. If you truly want to change your life, you have to become a ghost. Not in a spooky, disappearing sense, but in the way you carry your presence. Be invisible where everyone expects to see you. Be silent where others would boast. Be absent from the places that drain your energy and present in the places that sharpen your soul. For the next 6 months, don't show up just to be seen. Show up only where growth happens. Retreat from the crowds, the noise, the approval seeking, and step into a world where only discipline lives. When I was developing myself, my body, my skills, my philosophy, I stopped trying to be everywhere. I didn't need the spotlight. I didn't want to be seen at every gathering, every event, every public stage. I wanted to be forgotten, so I could remember who I truly was. Because when you pull away from the world, you give yourself the space to train like no one else. There is something powerful about being off the radar, where no one can interrupt your evolution, no one can distract your process, no one can distort your identity. Training like a ghost means showing up before the sun rises and leaving before anyone knows you were there. It means doing the work when nobody's watching. It means pushing yourself in the dark, not for applause, not for a picture, not for approval, but because the work matters. It means mastering your breath, your patience, your strength, your art, while the world scrolls, tweets, and talks. When you live like this, detached from the need to be seen, you become unpredictable. You become mysterious. And that's power, because no one can measure your progress. No one can prepare for what you're becoming. They can't compete with a version of you they haven't seen coming. By the time they realize who you are, you've already passed them. Being present everywhere weakens your edge. It drains your energy. It exposes your weaknesses. But when you train like a ghost, you build quietly, relentlessly, and without interruption. You are present nowhere, so they assume you're gone. But the moment you return, they realize you were becoming dangerous everywhere. Remember this: when they don't know where you are, they can't prepare for who you're becoming. Disappear with purpose, train with fire, return with power. That is how transformation is done. Detach from the world so you can rebuild yourself. If you want to become someone new, someone powerful, someone unrecognizable from who you used to be, then you must detach fully, not halfway, not occasionally, not when it's easy. You must step away from everything and everyone that keeps you tied to the person you're trying to outgrow. This is not about becoming cold or distant. It's about becoming free. Detachment doesn't mean you stop caring. It means you stop clinging, because what you cling to often ends up controlling you. When I started rebuilding myself, I realized something painful but necessary. I was too connected to things that were weighing me down: people's opinions, my past failures, my old identity, comfort, distractions, validation. I had to step back. Not because I hated my life, but because I knew I couldn't build a new one while dragging the old one with me. And you can't either. You see, real transformation doesn't happen in public. It happens in solitude, in detachment, in silence. When you walk away from the noise of the world, you finally hear your own voice again. You begin to realize which thoughts are truly yours and which ones were planted in you by people who never understood your potential. Detachment gives you that clarity, that space, that breathing room to burn down the old and build up the new. It's not easy. Letting go never is. You'll miss some people. You'll crave the habits. You'll feel lost for a while. But that's exactly what rebirth feels like. Disorienting, uncomfortable, lonely. And yet, in that discomfort, something beautiful starts to grow. Your true self, the one that was buried under other people's expectations, the one that was chained to fear, the one that was silenced by insecurity. That version of you begins to rise the moment you start letting go. Detach from your need to explain yourself, from your need to be liked, from the false identities you've worn to fit into places you were never meant to be. Because when you detach from who you were, you finally give yourself permission to become who you were always meant to be. I did this. I cut off the noise. I separated myself from everything that didn't serve my evolution. And in that space, far from the chaos, I rebuilt my mind, my body, and my philosophy. I studied. I trained. I listened to the rhythm of my own heartbeat. And when I emerged, I was untouchable. Understand this. I destroyed who I was to build who I needed to be. And you must do the same. Walk away, let go, detach, not to escape the world, but to return to it as someone it's never seen before. Master one discipline until it breaks you open. In a world where everyone is distracted, jumping from one thing to another, trying to do everything and becoming great at nothing, your power will come from choosing one path and walking it with unshakable devotion. One craft, one purpose, one mission. You don't need to be everywhere. You need to go deep. So deep into your discipline that it stretches you, challenges you, humbles you, and finally transforms you. When I was developing myself, I didn't try to be a master of all things. I chose one, martial arts, and I dove into it with every part of my soul. But let me be clear, it wasn't just about punches or kicks. The discipline wasn't in the moves, it was in the mind behind the moves, the spirit behind the breath. I trained my body, yes, but more importantly, I trained my focus, my patience, my resilience. Martial arts became the mirror that showed me who I really was. It broke me open, and then it rebuilt me. That's what a true discipline does. It's not just a skill, it's a spiritual path. Whether your path is physical, intellectual, artistic, or entrepreneurial, the principle is the same. When you give yourself completely to one discipline, you discover the limits of your will. And once you reach that edge, something magical happens. You go beyond it. You become more than what you were. You gain mastery not just over the craft, but over yourself. But most people never reach that point. They dabble. They quit when it gets hard. They seek variety instead of depth. But not you. If you want to come back unrecognizable, you must be willing to suffer for mastery, to bleed for it, to devote hours every day to it even when no one is watching, even when no one cares, especially then, because it's in the quiet moments when no applause is coming that you truly become who you are meant to be. Choose one thing and let it consume you. Let it stretch your identity. Let it shatter your old patterns. Let it demand more of you than you think you can give. Because when you come out the other side, you won't just be skilled. You'll be transformed. That's what I did. I didn't just train. I became the training. I didn't just learn martial arts. I became martial arts. It flowed through me because I let it shape me, mind, body, and spirit. And so I say to you, I became unrecognizable when I went all in on one thing and burned the rest. If you want to rise, stop trying to balance everything. Pick your path. Go all in. Let it break you. Let it rebuild you. That's the only way to walk out of the shadows as someone the world cannot ignore. Say nothing. Just watch how they react. There's something powerful, almost spiritual, about walking away without a word. No goodbyes, no explanations, no announcements, just silence. When you begin your journey of self-transformation, you don't need to broadcast your departure. You don't owe the world an update. Just leave. Leave the conversations that drain you. Leave the environments that limit you. Leave the relationships that no longer align with who you're becoming. And then watch. Watch carefully. Because silence reveals the truth that noise often hides. When you step back from people's lives, their reactions will speak volumes. Some will notice your absence instantly. Others won't even blink. Some will reach out, curious, maybe even supportive. Others will gossip, criticize, or pretend they never knew you. And this is good, because in this stillness, you will learn who truly values your presence and who only tolerated it. When I began my own journey of disappearing to rebuild, I didn't explain myself. I didn't say, hey, I'm about to change. I didn't ask for understanding or permission. I just went silent. I stopped showing up to be seen. I stopped offering pieces of myself to people who never offered anything back. And the reactions I witnessed, they taught me everything. Some people respected the silence. Others feared it. But all of them were forced to face the reality of my absence. That's the beauty of disappearing. It shakes the room without making a sound. You must understand something important. The more you talk, the more access you give people to your energy. But when you go quiet, when you move with no trace, when you let your progress grow in secret, That's when people start to notice something has changed. They just can't put their finger on it yet. And that uncertainty, that discomfort, it is powerful because now you are no longer predictable. You are no longer easy to read. You are no longer in their control. Say nothing. Don't defend your growth. Don't beg for support. Don't argue with people who are committed to misunderstanding you. The more silent you become, the more clearly you will see. And when you finally return, you won't need to say a word. Your presence will say everything. That's how I moved. In silence. I trained. I studied. I evolved. And while others filled rooms with noise, I let my silence shake the foundation. Because silence isn't just the absence of sound. It is the presence of discipline, of control, of depth. When used correctly, silence becomes a storm in the minds of those who never took you seriously. So remember this. Your silence will disturb more people than your words ever could. Stop explaining, start observing, say less, watch more. Because the truth always reveals itself when you step away. And that truth will fuel you, not with anger, but with clarity, with purpose, with power. Let the world wonder where you went. Let your return be the answer. 6. Learn to live without praise, validation, or applause. If you truly want to become unstoppable, you must master this lesson. Stop depending on recognition to feel worthy. Stop needing applause to feel motivated. Stop waiting for others to notice your effort before you decide to believe in yourself. Praise is a drug, and the more you rely on it, the weaker you become when it's not there. You must build a mindset so powerful that your drive, your worth, your fire comes from within, not from the claps of an audience. When I was building myself, no one was clapping. No one was cheering me on. There were no cameras, no followers, no lights, just pain, just discipline, just silence. And yet, I kept going. I didn't need anyone to say, "You're doing great," because I had already made the decision. I will keep going, whether the world notices or not. That's where true power begins. When you train in the dark and your own breath becomes your only witness. When you make progress and the only one who knows is you. Most people don't grow because they're addicted to being seen. If no one praises them, they stop. If no one validates their path, they doubt it. If they don't get instant results, they quit. But you are not most people. You are here to become extraordinary. And extraordinary growth requires invisible effort. Day after day, in private, without reward, without applause, without noise. If you truly want to rebuild yourself and come back unrecognizable, you must learn to fall in love with the process, even when it feels like no one is watching. You must become your own biggest fan and your own toughest coach. Your validation must come from the sweat on your forehead, the clarity in your mind, and the fire in your chest, not from likes, compliments, or attention. Because here's the truth. When you're addicted to praise, you become controlled by the people who give it. And the moment they stop, you shrink. But when you don't need it, when you are fueled from within, nothing can stop you. You don't move for claps. You move because you made a promise to yourself, and that promise is sacred. I didn't grow because the world supported me. I grew because I supported myself when no one else did. I believed in my vision when no one else could see it. I put in the work when there was no spotlight, no reward, no applause, just hunger. So ask yourself, can you do the same? Can you stay disciplined without being noticed? Can you show up every day with intensity, even when no one's watching? Can you stay loyal to your evolution, even in silence? Because when you can, you've become truly free. You no longer need the world's permission to rise. You no longer wait for a round of applause to feel worthy. You move on your own terms, in your own rhythm, in your own power. And that is when the world begins to take notice, because the person who no longer craves attention becomes impossible to ignore. So remember this. Become so good that silence feels louder than applause. Master yourself, applaud yourself, and let your results echo louder than any praise ever could. 7. Return without warning. Let the world chase your shadow. The most powerful part of disappearing isn't the silence, it's the return. You see, when you go away to rebuild yourself, when you've trained in the shadows, detached from the noise, mastered your discipline, and stopped depending on applause, there comes a moment where you walk back into the world, and nobody recognizes you. Not because you look different on the outside, but because the energy you now carry makes people freeze. There's something unfamiliar in your eyes, something unshakable in your posture, something unspoken but undeniable in the way you move. You didn't return for approval. You didn't come back to fit in. You came back because you became something else. When I returned from my solitude, from my inner war, I didn't announce it. I didn't ask for people's attention. I didn't tell them, "Look at me now." I just walked into rooms and let the silence do the talking. Because true power doesn't need to speak. It radiates, it shifts the air, it changes the conversation before you've said a word. That's the kind of transformation you're after. You don't need to explain what you've been doing. You don't owe anyone the details of your discipline. The world isn't entitled to your process. They will see it in your presence, in your results, in the way your energy has evolved. Let your comeback confuse them. Let it shatter their assumptions. Let it make them question everything they thought they knew about you. This is why the 6-month disappearance matters. Not because time alone changes you, but because intentional time changes everything. You spent it building, while they spent it watching. You were sweating in silence. They were speaking without action. You were evolving in darkness. They were wasting time in the light. And now, you're no longer one of them. You are something else entirely. You are the storm they never saw coming. You didn't return to prove them wrong. You returned to prove yourself right. And now you move with calm, with fire, with quiet power. You don't chase anyone. You don't explain to anyone. You don't wait for permission. You simply walk forward and let the world chase your shadow. Because when you've trained in silence, detached with discipline, and risen with purpose, you become untouchable. People may see your face, but they won't understand your presence, because the version of you they once knew doesn't exist anymore. And that's the point. So listen to me carefully. I didn't come back for attention. I came back as a storm. And so will you. Go dark, rebuild, say less, become more. And when the time comes, return like thunder, unannounced, unshaken, undeniable. Let your reappearance be the shockwave. Let your growth speak volumes. Let the world meet the version of you they never saw coming. You don't need more motivation. You don't need more people clapping for you. You don't need anyone to believe in you. What you need is to vanish, disappear, not to escape the world, but to rebuild in secret, to bleed without broadcasting, to suffer in silence, to grow so deeply that when you return, you don't recognize the person you used to be, and neither does anyone else. 6 months. That's all it takes. 6 months of isolation, of discipline, of sacrifice, of saying no to distractions, to weakness, to your old patterns. 6 months of rising before the sun, of pushing when it hurts, of trusting your vision even when no one else can see it. Because when you do that, when you say less, train hard, and stay unknown, you won't need to shout your comeback. The world will feel it. Your energy will shift rooms. Your presence will demand respect. Your silence will echo louder than their noise. And you won't just come back changed. You'll come back unrecognizable. So I ask you now, are you willing to disappear? Are you willing to let go of the old you? Are you ready to stop being seen so you can finally become? If the answer is yes, then go, starting today. Say less, train hard, stay unknown. Because when you return, You will not return as a person. You will return as a force.